All right, everybody, welcome to the VBSC podcast. I'm your host. My name is Greg Hersig, also known as the Volleyball Strength Coach, and this is episode 4 VBSC, obviously standing for the Volleyball Strength Coach back there. So what we're going to do, we're with most of the team today. We've got Coach Dion and Coach Sarah. We are missing Coach Cece. She's off doing other stuff. But what I wanted to go through today was talk about one of the most important things for volleyball players, which is knee pain and how to get rid of it. Because if you meet an adult volleyball player, there is probably a 95% chance that at some point in their career they have had knee pain. And as someone who got myself knee pain free after 16 years of pretty debilitating pain, starting from the time that I was 16, unfortunately for me, fortunately for you guys, I have a lot of direct personal experience with fixing knee pain. We have worked with over 1,000 athletes, and we've gotten a lot of them knee pain free. So today we are just going to kind of go around, talk about a lot of the basic premise of knee pain and what to do about it, and the way that we have been able to help some of our athletes. So really quick, I just want to go through, again, kind of the basic premise when it comes to any just injury or pain or prevention in general. And that is, we get pain because we get injured because the tissue that we are like talking about can't handle the forces that we're putting it under, right? So when we're jumping or when we're landing, we are asking our knees and our tendons and those type of things to absorb and redirect a lot of load. And if they cannot effectively absorb and redirect that amount of load, or if there's a weird landing or something, then that will cause an injury. Now, pain can happen for a different reason. It can be like kind of a protective mechanism, and that's something we're going to talk about today. But just going off of that basic premise of like injuries happen because the tissue can't handle the forces we're putting it under, that means we have two choices. Choice one is we increase the amount of load that tissue can handle. And choice two, which these work in conjunction, thing two is just decrease or don't put the tissue under more load than it needs to, right? So, you can get your knees as strong as you want, but if you land in like a crazy knee valgus single leg position every time you land, you're putting that tissue under more stress than it needs to be, right? So those are going to be the two things we talk about. And so I want to start with the ability to just increase the total force or the total load that the tissue can handle. And there's a couple ways we can do that. The basic premise of what we do for knee pain is kind of a multifaceted thing, but we do things like backwards treadmill and backwards sled to warm up that we got from Knees Over Toes guy. We're big on things like isometrics, which is really what I'm going to be talking about. And then we can do tempo training. So like eccentric reps, isometric reps, things like that we can increase the time under tension for those tendons and then make some good progress from there. So Dion, I know you have a lot of experience with like the slow reps and things like that. So I wanna hear from you really quick on your experience there.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the biggest thing that set me into the slow reps and everything was my own experience dealing with like quad tendinopathy and Achilles tendinopathy later. So like the combination of those two things sent me into a spiral of research that led me to slow reps and how they can be one of the main things that help with like tendinopathy or tendinosis. Basically, like tendinitis is like the more like short-term thing where it's more of an inflammation kind of thing. And the way that we do ISOs and everything helps a lot more with that. But when it becomes a more long-term thing, the ISOs are not as much, at least in my experience, the thing that help the slow reps are the biggest thing that help with that. And I've had really good experience with it myself, and then I've also brought different clients through it as well that deal with the same things, and they've had a lot of success with it too.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's important to have something like the backwards sled or treadmill, the ISOs for like that lower level stuff, or even preventative things. But when it gets to a point where it's like that's not helping or it's like it's not enough, we still have to have the clients be able to lift, but we have to do it in a way that doesn't hurt. So even if it's, the normal eccentrics where you're just like going down slowly, and then even when you try to come up at a normal speed, that can still hurt. So it's like then we just go down slow and up slow. We put a ton of time under tension through the tissue, through those tendons, and that can help like develop a lot of strength or a lot of resilience. Again, increasing basically the tissue capacity, right, of how much load it can handle. So yeah, been super helpful. Again, a lot of this stuff, it helps with the knees, it helps with the Achilles, it also helps with the shoulder. I've been messing around with like some shoulder isos and things where it's basically the same premise where, you can take, and do an isometric hold in whatever kind of like painful position you have for your shoulder. It's still kind of the same deal with that too. As far as back to like things that have really worked, if we take isos to the next level, I've had a client get really good success on daily isos. And when I say daily isos, I'm talking like 3, 4 times a day. When he's just like doing stuff, he would do an isometric hold. And he would do what we call a Peterson step iso, which is basically you go into like a quarter squat on one leg and lift the heel and just put a lot of attention into that quad. And you can do it like anywhere. Like I'm doing it right now. You see, you got a little shorter, but like, it's just like it's not like I'm not doing a wall sit, I'm not doing a split squat, I'm not doing something crazy. You can just kind of do it wherever you're at. And so when he came to me, the biggest thing he wanted fixed was his knee pain, and he got insane results from doing that. And I didn't even tell him to do it that frequently. I just talked to him about doing it daily and maybe like once or twice a day, but it was his idea because he saw so much benefit of it to go, 3, 4, 5 times a day. And I think it is important to talk about why isometrics work for knee pain. And so we can dive a little bit into the science of that. But the way that I like to work on things, like I don't like to get like super sciencey. I like to talk about it in like terms that people can understand. And I said this on last week's episode too, but when you hear people who talk like super science and like on social media and stuff, they're really talking to other coaches to make other coaches think that they're smart. But that doesn't really translate to the people who don't have an exercise science background, right? So we're going to talk science, but I'm going to do it in ways that just like makes a lot of sense. Basically, when we've got knee pain, right? Um, it's a protective in a lot of ways, unless there's an injury and like tissue damage, it's like a protective mechanism where your body's telling you, hey, I don't want you to do that movement or go through that range of motion because I think you might get hurt. And so it doesn't allow you, it sends those pain signals to basically prevent you from doing that. Well, what isometrics do is when you hold in that semi-painful position, it starts to tell your brain, like, actually, you know what? This is okay. I can handle force in this position. You don't have to send those pain signals out anymore. And so if we can continue to kind of push through that in a light, I mean, we want like a 1 or 2 out of 10 pain when we do isos, but you want to make sure that that pain signal is shutting down within that like 30, 40 seconds where it starts to get better, right? Because that's just teaching your body that you can handle load in that position. And of course, we do need to progressively overload that over time. So it either has to be longer durations of the same thing or, the same duration with weight added and continue to add more and more weight. But we do need to make sure we are still progressing that. So I know, Sarah, you had mentioned doing some stuff with some of your younger athletes in like a preventative aspect. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I work with athletes who we're on the court a minimum of 6 hours a week, and on tournament weekends, that could be upwards of 12 hours of court time with games and tournaments. And so we do a ton of jumping. And so I notice like jumper's knee is a real thing. And so what I have been doing with my younger athletes is getting them to do the backwards walking on a treadmill, kind of getting that, activation behind the knee. And also the Peterson iso hold and the Patrick step. I'm finding that's kind of what I've been able to utilize at this level. And so far, we're having some success with it. So that's exciting too.
Yeah, it's like we, obviously want to do these as fixing jumper's knee or like, making sure that pain can go away. But if we can prevent it by doing things earlier when that knee pain first starts coming, or do it before you ever have knee pain so we can increase that tissue tolerance, then we can help prevent that along the way. Because if we go back to the very beginning, it's like injuries happen because the tissue can't handle the forces we're putting it under. So if we're proactive and increasing the strength of that tissue, then there's less likelihood for injury down the line. So I guess just kind of to bring it all back, like overarching things, just the main things that we do. I'm gonna run through almost like a knee pain type of workout we would do. Say someone does come to us with knee pain, right? We would start with like backwards backwards sled or treadmill, do that for like 3 to 5 minutes, maybe even up to 10 minutes if they need to. Then we would go to our ISO hold. So it could be leg extensions, could be split squat, could be that Peterson ISO, could be the spring ankle drills, which now that same client Fareed is getting really good results with the spring ankle drills, which is so interesting. And we would do that for 2 to 3 sets, usually 2 exercises, 2 to 3 sets of 30 to 45 seconds, maybe up to 60 seconds, and then adding load as we go. After that, if it's really bad knee pain, maybe we'll do some low intensity extensive plyos. So just really lightweight, like high repetition plyometrics to slowly start to get a little bit of force through that tissue again at a really low intensity. If the knee pain's really bad, we would just skip that. And then go to something like slow squats or slow eccentric, like even like a leg press, or going through whatever range of motion the athlete can go through for that. So if it's a box squat slightly above parallel and that's what they can do pain free, then we're definitely going to have them do that so we can still get some actual load on the system when we do that. And then in the idea of like, don't put the tissue under more stress than we need to, that's where all of the other stuff comes in. Training your calves, training your hamstrings, training your glutes. Those, help make sure your gait and your biomechanics and all those things like work correctly so that the knee isn't taking more load than it has to. For example, calves being like our first line of impact absorption when we jump. So the stronger the calves are, the less stress goes to the quads, or the stronger the feet and the hips are. If we can avoid that knee valgus, that's just preventing, us from putting the knee under more stress than it has to. So we would follow that with accessory hamstrings in a hip hinge or in a knee flexion type of manner, all kinds of calf raises, all kinds of glute work, and then just giving the knees the protection that they need. So any other points you guys want to throw in before we call it a pod?
The only thing I was going to say was that with the tendinopathy or tendinosis, one thing that I've found is that it is a little bit different with how you have to deal with it because when it gets to that chronic level, sometimes it is a matter of pushing through a little bit of pain. And in the studies that they've done about that, the participants were instructed to push through like anything below like a 3 or a 4 out of 10. And that's one of the parts that I've used with my clients, and it's just kind of, I think it's important to actually push through a small amount of pain when it gets to that chronic type of injury.
Agreed. And I think a very key point of that is we do have to know that it is tendon pain. If it is some kind of like PFP or kneecap type of pain or something like that, then that's usually a no because it's not going to help. It's going to make it worse. But if you know for sure that it is a tendon-based pain, then yes, 100%, like you have to push through a little bit of that because we have to get the tissue stronger. So, Coach Sarah, anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. Well, cool. Appreciate you guys. There's episode 4 for you if you want to check back. We've got 3 other episodes you will be able to find either on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So feel free to check it out, subscribe, do whatever you can. If you have any questions you want us to address on a future podcast episode, leave them in the comments on YouTube or drop me a message on Instagram. And then we will catch you guys next week with the next episode.